Let me know if you can hear me now. Testing, testing. There's a few different mute buttons, and StreamYard is different too. So let me know if you can hear me okay. I see the little green dots now. Let me pull up the comments. All right, I think. All right, yo, what's up, guys? What up? What up? Yeah, StreamYard. StreamYard has like changed their shit around. So yeah, thank you. Thanks. No blue gloves. A blue spray bottle that is chewed on the back. This is the only thing that one of my dogs listens to. So Frida Kahlo, if she is misbehaving and needs to stop, and she won't listen to me, so I literally just shake this, and she hears the water, and she'll normally stop. Sometimes I have to actually spray her. So yeah, nah, bro, nah, no gloves, no gloves. I do have gloves though. You never know when you need a set of gloves. But good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. I am the most responsible adult out there and forgot that I scheduled to take today off. So I woke up this morning ready to go to work, and yeah, I logged in and saw that I was off of the board. So I was like, huh. So I pulled up our chat, and yeah, sure enough, I took today off as well as tomorrow because I have to get a little procedure done tomorrow. Nothing crazy. But yeah, so I was like, hell yeah. Gives me time to do a live and to sit down and chit chat with you guys. So here we are. Thank you guys for joining me. I truly appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube here, I appreciate that. If you're watching over on Twitter, I appreciate that as well. Twitch, wherever suits your fancy, appreciate that. Or if you're watching our replay, which I assume most people will be because it's random afternoon, right? And most people are working, depending on where you're at in the world. But anyway, my dog is beside me as well, chewing on her hammer. So let me know if you guys can hear that because, like I always say, it gets to me. But if you guys cannot hear it, then that's really all that matters. Oh, Franklin, I appreciate that, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. They changed my time too. So like it's first I had this procedure scheduled for back in June. They rescheduled it for July. And then this morning they left me a voicemail saying, hey, we need you to come in like 2 hours earlier. And it's just like, okay, like it's not, I'm on your time, right? Not that I don't have to have a ride arranged or anything like that. So, right, we're on doctor's times. But yeah, guys, we have a lot to talk about. I was debating on doing the prediction show for All In today, but I'm not going to. I'm going to hold off on that until tomorrow evening. Like I said, my procedure's in the morning, so I should be home by like midday. I'll probably sleep for a bit and then sometime tomorrow evening, I would imagine. So we will most likely be doing a show tomorrow evening. So TBD on that. And worst case, if I can't do it tomorrow for whatever reason, we'll do something on Friday. So be on the lookout for that. And obviously, I'll be going live Saturday morning over on Brass Ring Media on YouTube. So definitely subscribe and be on the lookout for that. Normally around 10:15 is what I shoot for. That's essentially the time now. It's just easier. Just getting shit set up time wise. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, Bashing Media has a lineup throughout this entire week as well. And we will be doing a watch along because I apparently hate myself and love to sit for hours upon hours. And we'll be doing the watch along for All In. I know it is going to be a marathon show, but I was happy to see it's starting at 3 p.m. So that is kind of between that and it being the biggest show of the weekend, obviously. And I actually thought about doing partially. I was thinking about maybe sticking around doing Saturday night's main event as well, but I don't know, guys, because let me know what you think because we all know AEW pay-per-views tend to go 4+ hours, and this is essentially I'm calling it like their WrestleMania, right? So I can imagine it's probably going to push 5 hours. So that was just a thought. That was just a little tentative thought. So yeah, don't hold me to that. And then I was thinking about possibly Evolution as well, which is on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. I believe. That one seems a little bit more doable, but you're a one like transportation-ish thing on Saturday, or I'm sorry, Sunday evening. So that's kind of like a rough idea of what I look forward to doing this weekend. But regardless, whatever we do end up doing, obviously we'll link back up together and do a review show if we're not able to do all the watch alongs, but All In is confirmed for the watch along, guys. So if you would like to join me, it'd be great. If not, totally understand. And it was a debate as well because, to be honest, guys, a lot of people, and some feedback that I've gotten, like a lot of people, I don't say a lot, but a good portion of people who watch me, or at least I interact with, have not really been watching AEW lately and are not planning on watching All In. So that was part of the reason why I was debating back and forth on which show to do, because obviously, you want to do what the majority wants to do, right? So still throw in the chat here on your thoughts on that, and I guess I will do that poll now on Twitter. I've been talking about it, but I'm going to do that now really quick as well. So if you guys are on Twitter, do the poll that I'm going to post on my Twitter page at Kakash Podcast _ all right. Is your for Saturday? And shout out, I don't know if any of you guys are going to be in Texas at All In, but oh my gosh, it's supposed to be like 91 degrees, some shit. And I know that stadium does have a retractable roof, so I'm hoping that shit's going to be closed. Like, don't even open it just to, enjoy the day type shit. Because I've heard, and you guys, the football diehards, at least football in the U.S. sense, right? Not football, soccer, right? But I guess those stadiums will count too. But anyway, my understanding is it's not just a simple switch. You know what I mean? It's not just okay, we can start with it open and then just throughout the night close it. Or I'm not sure if that's just stadium by stadium. So let me know if you guys know that in the chat. If how easy it is to close the roofs on the roof or the roof on the stadiums. Trying to be grammatically correct. And if whether if it is easy or not to open or and close it, or if it is a simple fact of it takes time and you can't do that shit when people are in there. Excuse me. And that's what I had heard, because I think it was the way, like, part of it has to be initiated, like you have to get on the interior or some shit. Obviously, I have no idea, but if you guys know, let me know, because that's really actually kind of interesting to me. But the point of that is, can you imagine, like, and again, if you guys are going to be there, any of you guys let me know. But my goodness, I can't imagine sitting in a stadium just baking in that heat for, you gotta imagine, at least 5 hours, minimum 5 hours, right? Going upwards of 6. So can you imagine sitting there cramped in between people, baking in the sun if that shit is open? Bro. And I'm not gonna say the stereotypical like wrestling fan, but bro, it's not even that far off. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of interesting people with various auras and various aromas that you experience throughout the day and in the evening. So if that is the case and that shit's going to be open, God bless those people, because and that makes me feel better for not going. So yeah, I'm gonna throw this pull up here and then get back to the festivities. WWE. We'll do 5 days. And to be picking random time links. All right, cool. All right, cool. So I put that poll on Twitter, so feel free to interact with that if you'd like. No pressure. But that's the goal, or not the goal, but that is the idea. All In, watch along. But like I said, I know you guys, or some of you guys, don't watch it. So I'm gonna jump in the chat really quick. What up, everyone? Though, what up? What up? Yeah. Josh, you're funny, bro. Collision, the real go home. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I didn't watch Collision from last week, but there was a clip that I saw floating around on Twitter from Daniel Garcia. I think it was from last week's Collision, saying something about like, you think you deserve like a title shot because you beat Daniel Garcia. So what? Like everyone's beat Daniel Garcia or some shit like that. I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? Um, yeah. So it actually made me want to go back and watch Collision, but when I turned it on, I actually fell asleep. And again, that's no shot to them. It was just super late after a long day, so no shade to them. But yeah, I just randomly thought of that because of Collision. But what up, guys? What up, Franklin, Cy, E, Josh again? What up? What up? Ah, Franklin, it's like you read my mind, dude. You said gonna be a lot of sweaty BO boys at that show for sure. Men who haven't showered since prom night. Yeah, bro. Yeah. Um. Oh, okay. So Joshua, thanks, man. You said I don't know about Texas, but the stadium in Indianapolis retracts, and it takes like 10 minutes to do it, and people can be inside. Oh shit! Well, that'd be fantastic then. That would be fantastic. Because you would think, right, with just everything and where we're at, like technology wise and just construction wise in this day and age, like we should be able to build a stadium that we can open and shut the roof relatively quickly. Like I'm not saying within like a minute, but like it shouldn't take like it first of all, it should be feasible, and second of all, it shouldn't take hours or anything like that. Like it should be, I don't want to underplay it and say simple, but it should be relatively easy. So thanks for that feedback, man. Ligo, what up, bro? What up? What up? What up? Thanks for joining, my friend. How are you? How are you? Franklin. Oh, okay. Okay, Franklin, you said I'm in Texas for a few years now. This summer has actually been my coolest summer so far. When I first moved here, damn, 110 degrees Fahrenheit was the average. Screw that, bro. That's like worse than here in Florida. And you said it's been a very wet summer so far. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, but damn, that could be even worse. Imagine sitting there and getting rained on. But what WrestleMania was that? 37 in Tampa, I think, when they had that rain delay and Samoa Joe was out there in his poncho. Oh shit, good times. Was it or was it 36? I think 36 was the one that was relocated to the Thunderdome. One of those. All right, but so the main thing, well, one of the main things I wanted to talk about here today is, excuse me, Charlotte's, of course, Charlotte the wrestler, Charlotte's letter, her Players Tribune letter. I debated on reading it, like actually reading it word for word, or just like kind of like addressing it, just because it's obviously a personal piece, and it's one of those things where I kind of felt weird, like me putting like my voice to it, right, and reading it out, because it's and to be honest, like and it was on purpose. I haven't read the entirety of it. I just read a couple excerpts, which is what made me decide to go ahead and read it with you guys, and to pull it up and share it and to go through it. Because if you guys have listened to me prior, I am a Charlotte fan, long story short. But I am not one of those people who rags on wrestlers, right? Like, and again, like I've mentioned before, and that you can say it's like bias or whatever, but like the women do get way more scrutiny in regards to their appearance changes, things like that, right? And if it's completely obvious, we as spectators, we do have a right to at least bring it up, right? But some channels, and you guys know who they are, take it to the extreme, right? And sit there and bash someone for their appearance or just make fun of them, right? And to me, that's just low class. And to me, it's just low hanging fruit. And like, is that why you're watching wrestling? And to me, if that's why, then okay, cool, like good for you, but that's just not my cup of tea, and not it's just not a channel I interact with. So, long story short of that, but for me, Charlotte is one of those interesting characters on screen wise that receives a lot of negative feedback and a lot of negative criticism and a lot of like blending of the real life person and her character on screen. So that's always been very fascinating to me because not a lot of characters and wrestlers do. And again, obviously, right, you're the daughter of Ric Flair, one of the biggest wrestling names of all time. Some say the greatest of all time. So you automatically are going to have a different level of attention brought on you from jump, fair or not fair, right? And that's just to be expected, you know what I mean? And that is pretty much unavoidable. But for her, man, it's just to me, it seemed like some people have just gone in much harder and just taken things different directions. And now to play both sides, right? There have been reports throughout the years in regards with like who, like Becky Lynch. Who was the other one? I know Becky Lynch was like the popular one, right? I'm not, but other wrestlers backstage, other female wrestlers, who they supposedly have had, you know, different type of interactions or different issues with. I obviously was not there, right? Be pretty cool if I was. I don't know. I don't know. Long story short, I don't know the truth in the matter. So I'm not here to speculate on that. And to be fair, like shit happens in locker rooms. You know what I mean? Like shit happens in locker rooms, in backstage settings, in all environments, in all industries. Not excusing it, but unless she has like verbally or like physically like abuse someone, like you know that's like cause fights or like demean someone backstage and stuff like that, then that's obviously a completely different topic and discussion, right? um but without knowing all the details, like I just, even with the whole CM Punk thing, you know what I mean, like taking it way back when, you know, like it's the bits and pieces that came out and the stuff that seems to be pretty consistent, you can draw opinions on. But other than that, we're all just here like speculating. You know what I mean? So in CM Punk for that matter, you know, like a lot of people no longer were fans of his after the media scrum, the brawl out, all that shit that happened in AEW. And then on the flip side, excuse me, a lot of people doubled down and like just dug their what they say, like what's that phrase, dug their toes into the sand, or like dug whatever, you guys know those things, dug in deeper in their fandom for him. So a lot of times in my opinion it's just everyone's opinion and to each their own. So but again with Charlotte, I think a lot of times if she were a male, some of the shit wouldn't even be that big of a deal or wouldn't even be a discussion. So that's my 2 cents and my kind of, I guess, overall thoughts. And again, you can call it bias, whatever. That's fully okay. And there may be a portion of that, but I do think it's important to read the article and read the letter that she penned. Like I said, I've not read it, period. And besides like a couple excerpts that I saw, which, like I said, made me want to read it with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen. It does seem to be lengthy, so this isn't going to be the shortest of shows, which again, if you guys have been here before, that's not to be, you know, nothing new here. So I'm going to share my screen because I think I don't know. I think it's important to discuss. Un momento. All right, cool. So let me take a quick sip of the coffee. That was more like a gulp, but you know, I am not a chugger though. Never been a chugger. All you people who can do like those like the, what is it called, like the beer, like with that funnel. Bless you guys. Could never be me. Was never me. All right, back to the topic at hand, though. Make sure I unmuted myself. Yeah. All right. So, first of all, I loved the title and the picture that they chose. Chose. The hell kind of language is that? Chose. How am I going to be Charlotte Flair today? And that itself is what caught me as well. Franklin. Yeah, bro. At least you could. At least you were able to. I even just drinking water. Like it would take me a couple like gulps, and then I had to take a breath. You know, call me weak, whatever you want. Like, but it always cracked me up. Like people would always judge, like, oh, like you certain words, like, oh, you wuss, for lack of other words. And it's like, okay, oh well, go for it. They never called me. That was cool with everyone, but you know how normally like guys to other guys, like, you know, like the male ego and shit, like, oh, come on, you know, the p word got thrown around a lot. It's just funny. But anywho, I am going to actually hold on one second, guys. I'm going to take the hammer away because it's gonna drive me nuts. Thank you for your patience with me, guys. My I have like a weird sensory like thing, and I just can't. I can't. So on to the actual official business here. No more delays. Again, I love the picture that she, I guess, chose and the title. How am I going to be Charlotte Flair today? Which right off the bat draws you in, right? At least it drew me in. Um, and I think you guys can hear me. Okay, let me know though, because I did mute myself when I stepped away really quick. But I'm going to continue because I think I'm good. But and again, of course, if you don't know, Charlotte's real name is Ashley, which kind of ironic, kind of cool. Ashley and Fleer. I don't Fleer Flyer. I know they pronounce the actual real last name, the Fliehr, a different way. I don't know the exact way though. All right, cool. Thanks, I. Um, which is cool. And I side note, like I've always thought it was really dope, like the wrestlers who can, right, Cal, the wrestlers who can just make small variations to their name, and it kind of just be a playoff on their original. So I just always thought that was pretty cool. But we will begin. Again, this is pinned by Charlotte, but the human behind Charlotte character, Ashley. She starts by saying, I have this memory. It's about 27 years ago. It's late at night, and I'm with my brother Reed. We're in North Carolina in the house where we grew up, and we're up past our bedtime. Some nights, including tonight, that means Reed sneaking into my bedroom and us watching TV. We watch Buffy. Oh, love Buffy. Dawson's Creek, all the best shows on this tiny silver TV that our mom lets me have. We watch for hours, even after we're tired. I'm 12, he's Reed's 10, and it's like we're at that age where it almost feels important to stay up late. Haha. Like it's this one thing we control. I feel that. Now I'm 39, and I find myself thinking about that a lot lately. Control. The stuff we control in our lives, the stuff we don't. So much is going to happen to me and Reed over those next several years, and our 12 and 10-year-old selves have no idea. I'll go to college on a volleyball scholarship, but it won't work out. Reed will get into boarding school, but it'll be full of pressures he's not ready to handle. We'll drift apart a bit after our parents' divorce. We'll find our way to each other again. We'll both have our struggles for different reasons, are down different paths. I'll start to wrestle. Reed will die. Sometimes I wish we could have stayed up forever that night, just stayed in my bedroom, watching TV, and it never becomes morning. I know that's not how it works, though. I know that life moves forward no matter where you look back. That's rough, man. And she continues, I have this memory. It's about 24 years ago. I'm in my freshman year of high school, and I'm trying out for varsity volleyball. We're running the mile. I'm going pretty slow. Don't get me wrong, I'm not slow at all. I'm like insanely fast, but I'm making sure I don't go full speed. The cool seniors are on the team, or the cool seniors on the team are jogging, and I don't want to seem uncool. I really want them to like me. So I kind of slow myself down closer to their pace. And that's when I hear it. And quote unquote, get your ass moving. It's my dad, watching from the sidelines. He is not happy with me. And quote unquote, Ashley, get it moving. Look at me, move. It's weird saying my name. Now he's literally running along the fence with us, screaming his way around the outside of the track, blonde hair whipping up. Ashley, fucking move now. He's so pissed. I'm so embarrassed, but I did start running faster. And that story is my dad in a nutshell, I guess. He's Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, the greatest wrestler of all time. If you ask most people, he will never blend in a good way. He will never blend in a bad way. He knows one style and one style only, his own. He can be frustrating, annoying, overbearing, overwhelming, and if I gave you 100 more adjectives, I still wouldn't quite get there. But he believes in me. And here is a picture of Ashley and the Nature Boy on a looks like a little ATV 4-wheeler on the beach. That's so dope. It's pretty cool. Mohammed, you said Flair and Flair. Both are pronounced the same way. Okay, I've heard it different ways though. I've heard like 3 different variations of it, but okay. Back to the article. She says he's always believed in me, and he's the one person who never ever gave up on my potential to be great. And that's evident. If you've ever listened to any Ric Flair interview, he's always like, he gloats on her and to no end. So say what you want about Rick, he knows a lot, but there's no denying that. And his love for his family, dude. So go ahead. All right, she continues. I have this memory. It's about 13 years ago. I just got to FCW, like literally. I left North Carolina on Friday with my dogs. I packed up a U-Haul, quote, or in parentheses, half of a leather couch plus the pearl white bed I slept in until I got big girl furniture in 6th grade. I drove down to Tampa, and now it's 8 a.m. that next Monday, and I'm reporting to class. Norman Smiley, wow, great trainer. Norman Smiley, one of the head trainers, greets me as I walk in the door. He goes, "Hi, you need to fill out this paperwork. It's normal onboarding stuff. Why are you here? How'd you get started? What's your background?" Questions like that, no problem. But then one of the questions is, do you know a wrestler in the business? What a question, right? In my head, I'm thinking, don't be an idiot. Just say Ric Flair. Don't be an idiot. Just say Ric Flair. And then she's like, don't be an idiot. Just say Ric Flair. I write my answer in, oh God. Honestly, I'm not even sure what I was trying to do. Maybe I wanted to seem casual or self-deprecating, but I put down my pops. In parentheses, Ashley, what the fuck? So cringe. Then I finished the paperwork and handed it back over. I feel that. That's probably some shit I would do. A few minutes later, Norman comes up to me, and in the least impressed voice, he says, "Yeah, no one knows who my pops is. You need to put a name." And then there's a picture of the or one of the rows, which is just an amazing shot. My dog is like, she does this all the time. Like, she gets stressed out because she wants to get on the bed. Like, just go. All right. And then she continues, you need to put a name. I feel like my whole life, people have been telling me that in one way or another. And I think what was hard for me to get across back then, especially in those early days of developmental, is that even once I started wrestling, being a Flair wasn't my goal. It wasn't my dream. That was Reed's dream. He was the one following in our dad's footsteps. Me, I was just following in Reed's footsteps. I just wanted to be there for him. I knew it wasn't easy, not only feeling like he had to live up to being Ric Flair's son, but also feeling like he had to live up to that lifestyle that comes with it. The money, the partying, the drugs. It was a feeling that began for Reed as a teenager and then got worse for him as an adult, as a wrestler. Really quick though, you think of, at least for me personally, like you think of the normal stereotypic pressures, right? Like like, oh, of course, like being a Flair, like, you know, you need to live up to your dad's name wrestling wise, right? But you never think of like the surrounding aspects of that too. Like she mentions there, the money, the partying, and the drugs. Like living up to him in ring wise is one thing, right? Like how you know, like if your dad is go ahead, Cal. If your dad is or your mother, right, is on that level of like a Ric Flair, a Hulk Hogan, The Rock, you know, like something like that, and you are trying to become a wrestler and you want to become a wrestler, how like how do you like how just how you know what I mean? So that's the first thing, right? Like how do you live up to that just wrestling capacity wise? But then she brings up the interesting point, the lifestyle that comes with it, the money, the partying, and the drugs. And personally, like I've never really thought of it in that aspect. Like I guess you do, you know, like if your dad is known for that lifestyle and you're his son, like you I guess do have to kind of, I mean, you don't have to, right? But in like your mind, like that's one of the pressures. So I never thought of that. She continues, so that's why I got into wrestling at first, because my little brother needed me and he asked me to do it. And even though it is my dream now and I'm dreaming for both of us, I think I'll always have a complicated relationship with the name Flair. I think that for the rest of my wrestling career and probably for the rest of my life, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll ask the same question: how am I going to be Charlotte Flair today? Most days I have the answer, some days I don't. I can't imagine that pressure, yo. Like, and again, like a lot of people would be like, oh, you're, you know, like it's not that big of a deal. You're just a wrestler. But we're not in her shoes, dude. Like, we, you know, it's very easy for us to sit here and downplay stuff like that. Continuing on, she says, I have this memory. It's about 12 years ago. I get a phone call from Reed. He's back home in North Carolina. He's having a really hard time and he's begging me to come see him. I tell him I will. I will, I will, I will. I won't. I never end up coming home. I never end up seeing Reed. Not because I didn't love him so much. God, I did. And not because I didn't want so badly to help him get sober. I would have literally done anything to help him fight that battle. The truth is, I didn't go home to Reed for a reason that's so specific and so silly. A reason that for the rest of my life, I'll always feel guilty about. I was just too busy wrestling and I was having too much fun. Man, that's heavy, dude. And real. So shout out to her for being vulnerable. You know what I mean? And again, because like I said earlier, before we got into this, for whatever reason, she receives so much more, so much heavier, and not the heaviest, right? But heavier than most of criticism and negativity. And like, I don't know, people just don't think of like the human a lot of times. So yeah, man. Continuing on, and she says, honestly, that's it. I was just so incredibly focused on NXT at that point, so driven to get better, so excited for this new beginning of mine and for this new life I had a chance at, that I didn't want to go back home and, I don't even know, ruin it somehow, break the spell. So I put it off a little. And then I put it off a little more. And then I ran out of time. And then she shows here a little collage of her and Reed. Y'all remember the bowl haircuts, y'all? Oh, man. The 90s. The 90s. She does. She does. She's right here. My dog, Franklin, she, you want to talk about anxiety and shit, like she has heavy anxiety. Like I said, she just wants to get on the bed, but for whatever reason, she needs an invitation. And then there's a quote right here on the collage. So much is going to happen to me and Reed over those next several years. Our 12 and 10-year-old selves have no idea. Isn't that like crazy when you think about too, though? Like when you go back and kind of break it down like she is here. It's crazy. Life is crazy. And look at this picture right here. If you guys can see my mouse in the bottom left-hand corner. For like those shorts, bro. I have so many pictures like that. Oh man, that's great. That's great. Yeah, the Owen Hart haircut. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna help Callie really quick. BRB. All right, I'm back. She should be good now. Continuing on, she says, maybe this will sound strange, but in a way it feels harder to talk about Reed's death now than ever. And I think that's because I keep getting older, I keep experiencing things, I keep living, and the more I keep doing all of that, the more aware I am of how Reed isn't doing the same. The more aware I am of how I'm 39, going to be going on 40, while he's 25 and always will be. It's like he's Peter Pan, you know? Like he's more of my baby brother with each passing year. I completely feel that, bro. She continues, and there's a lot of tough emotions that come with that, emotions that are impossible for me to separate from what my wrestling career has grown into. But what I think I've realized over time is that honoring the memory of a loved one isn't about having the experiences they never got. It's about loving the person they actually were. And Reed, he was the best, you know? He was my guy. And when I think about the version of him that I want to keep with me, it's not even the big stuff I think about. It's all the little stuff. Like I remember I came home from college for the first time and I had gained the freshman 15 or more like 40 and all these people were calling me cheeks and somehow Reed turned it into a positive thing. He'd be like, "Nah, you look great, cheeks." And then that's how I felt. Or I remember we were all hanging out in a hotel room one night, the weekend of the Four Horsemen's Hall of Fame induction, and Reed was not doing well with his addiction at the time. But even from the darkest places he was in, where he couldn't find the strength to take care of himself, he would still find the strength to try to take care of me. And that whole night, while the rest of the people there were partying and talking about themselves and about the horsemen, the only thing Reed wanted to talk about was I was dating someone who, quote unquote, isn't good enough for me, who he thought was bad news, quote unquote. That's who Reed was to me, and that's how I remember him. As this sweet, funny, fearless guy who wasn't afraid of his own shadow. As the baby boy who only ever wanted everyone else to be happy. As the only person in my life who's ever known me fully and loved me anyway. I feel for her, man. I really do. All right. I have this memory. It's about 9 years ago. It's WrestleMania 32 in 2016 at a sold out AT&T Stadium in Dallas. It's me versus Becky versus Mercedes in a triple threat match. Shout out to her for putting Mercedes there too, and not Sasha. To crown the first ever WWE Women's Champion. I feel like this weird thing happens when you look back on history, where in retrospect stuff feels inevitable when it actually really fucking wasn't. And that's kind of what I think happens now with 32 in the way people remember our match. It's part of WWE history. It's so iconic. It's like, of course we killed it. Of course we stole the show and out wrestled every man on that card. Of course it was the first of many women's classics at WrestleMania. Except not, of course. No, for real. We could have just sucked. I really do wonder that sometimes. What if we had had a bad match that night? Who knows when, who knows if. The woman the women would have been given another shot. Okay. So I'm sorry. Who knows when, who knows if the women would have been given another shot. Like maybe everything would be different now. And it's so funny because if I told you we knew how high the stakes were in that moment, obviously I'd be lying. But if I told you, or I'm sorry, obviously I'd be lying. We were way too young, way too excited, and way too nervous to be thinking outside of ourselves. But at the same time, I swear, deep down, on some level, some part of us knew, which, seems normal, you know. I remember before we went out there for our entrances, in those last few seconds when we were in Gorilla together, the three of us locked arms in this little huddle, and I don't even really think we said anything to each other. Not out loud, anyway. We just sort of looked at each other. Me to Becky, Becky to Mercedes, Mercedes back to me, and we smiled. And it was like, who knows? Then probably a half hour later, we looked at each other. We looked at each other and smiled again. But this time it was, we did it. And yeah, y'all, that match was wonderful. And it was a big, again, she said it best, but it was a really big moment for women's wrestling. Continuing on, she says, I have this memory. It's about 7 years ago. It's Survivor Series in Los Angeles in 2018, and it's go time. Actually, let me back up for a minute. I love my job. I love all the different things that are a part of my job. I love the TVs, the house shows, the road, the camaraderie, the stuff we do outside the wrestling ring, the events where we get to interact with our fans. And I love how on any given day our job could be different, could be about any different combination of those things. But sometimes it's not about any of those things. Sometimes, honestly, it's just fucking go time. Sometimes it's just time to hit the damn music, ring the damn bell, and say, no one can touch me tonight. No one in the world can do what I can do what I do. And when I look back on my career so far and on my favorite matches, the match with Ronda at Survivor Series really stands out. Not just because of what it was, the baddest versus the queen, an actual dream match, but because of what it wasn't. Like, that one stands out to me because of what it didn't have. Titles on the line? Nope, nothing. Hype? Not at all. Zero hype. Great story? Long build? Time to prepare? None of that. What we had was 3 days. 3 days before Survivor Series, we found out that the match they'd booked Ronda in couldn't happen, so she needed a replacement opponent. And if you know the wrestling business, then you know that one of the unwritten rules is if there's a match you sold a show on and you're not able to deliver it, you have to pull out all the stops to make it up to that crowd. You have to give them the the next best option. WWE decided I was that option. And really quick, they shout out to WWE because when those situations have come up, they have delivered. The one that comes in mind, God, who was it? When Kurt Angle filled in and was like an honorary Shield member. I think it was that one, right? When we had, it was like Finn versus AJ Styles or some shit like that. But I forget, now I'm blanking on the exact situation, but it was something I feel like in that regard. And they just like over delivered. So, and that, props to them for that. All right. And again, like she said, WWE decided I was that option. Again, guys, like, I'm trying to take too many sidetracks, but like she doesn't like. It's not like she's like, okay, yeah, I'll take this spot. Like, it's not how it works, All right, and continuing on, she says, and in one sense, it was a huge honor. It was the company saying, you're our ace. It was them saying, you're the card we know we can play whenever we're dealt a bad hand. But let's be real. I also had a massive chip on my shoulder about it because in my mind, I'm nobody's next best option. I'm nobody's next best anything. And that's what I started telling myself to get psyched up. I was like, Charlotte Flair is the backup plan? Okay, well, not in the ring, she's not. I carried that chip on my shoulder for 3 whole days. I feel that. Then they hit the damn music and rang the damn bell. And Ronda and I went to work. I've had a lot of great matches in my career. And I think if you asked most people to pick the moment when I arrived, they'd pick a match from much earlier. But to me, that Ronda match in LA is the one. Because I think that's the first moment in my career where I really finally felt undeniable. Where I felt like I got to do what I do best without any of the other bullshit. When you watch someone like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen play quarterback, and when they're in the 2-minute drill when the 2-minute drill It's like they just flip on this switch and play free. That's how I felt against Ronda at Survivor Series. It was like for 15 minutes, we were in the 2-minute drill. There was no time to prepare for it, no time to think it through, but also no time to get in my own head about it. For one match, I just got to be a world class athlete, thrown into a high pressure moment, asked to go out there and execute. I just got to flip on that switch, go off instinct, and play free. I felt no one in the world could touch me that night. When I'm Charlotte Flair, nothing can. I dig a peek behind the curtain in the mindset, right? All right. Continuing on, I have this memory. It's about 4 years ago. I just worked my first show in a while, the Raw after WrestleMania 37, after being out 6 weeks from COVID. It's extremely hard to live healthy on the road. So while I was off, I did something I'd wanted to do for a long time. I got in the best shape of my life. I lost like 25 pounds. I got leaner and more toned. I felt so great. I've always been pretty self conscious about my appearance, but I seriously was so proud of the effort I put in and the results I'd achieved. I remember feeling really good about how I'd looked at that night's show. Here we go. And she says, then I checked my phone after. I literally had thousands of notifications on Twitter, most of it people speculating about what kind of plastic surgery I had gotten. Okay, what the fuck happened to Charlotte? Holy shit, her whole body is fake. You know she got work done. She looks like dad in a wig. Yeah. And that I know it's just some of the milder ones because I've seen some of the stuff people post in just like the comments that they like in their replies, and I'm just like, wow, like I just the balls on some people, right? Like I'm just like, yo, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? Like that's it's just funny and not funny ways. You know what I mean? She says, I've dealt with stuff like that my whole career, but I try not to take it personally. On some level, I get it. I'm relatively famous, and I make a very good living from work that involves showing off my body. I get that certain things just come with that territory, and I never expect anyone to put feeling sorry for Charlotte Flair high on their priority list. But it really is wild how, like, okay, I'll put it like this: people are getting smarter and smarter when it comes to understanding the wrestling business. Everyone knows everything now, not just about what's on screen, but what's off screen as well. And yet, the smarter that people get about wrestling, the easier they seem to forget the basic concepts. Like the concept that I'm not Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair, she's the queen. She's the villain. She's supremely confident and she never gets rattled. She thrives on you booing her, thrives on you hating her. She's blonde, 5'10, athletic as hell. Wins constantly. A 14-time world champ. I mean, she showed up to a WrestleMania one year in a robe with freaking peacock feathers on it. Literally, who does that? And there's a pretty cool shot there. Oh, and one other thing. She's a bad fucking bitch. But I'm not her. Not always, anyway. I know that a lot of people want me to be her. I know that sometimes even I want me to be her. But I'm not. When that camera turns off, I'm just Ashley Flair. And unlike Charlotte, Ashley is not always supremely confident. And sometimes she does get rattled. And she doesn't win constantly. Again, I lose pretty often. I spent a lot of my life losing. And if I'm being really real, I've spent a lot of my life feeling like a loser. I've lost at just about everything there is to lose at. I've flaked on promises. I've cut and run from challenges. I've quit on dreams. I've had my childhood home foreclosed on. I've alienated friends. I've disappointed family. I've given up on myself. I've lost people I love. And yeah, let's just get it out of the way. I've gotten divorced 3 times. And this, I'm going to put a pin in really quick before we continue. Obviously, and I think she does reference it here. This is why when it happened, like it was one of those like, oh shit, when of course it was in regards to Tiffany Stratton, their build up to WrestleMania. there were so many like mixed reports on if it was planned in advance and if who knew about it and what have you. Um, but I just remember thinking like, dude, like if that wasn't like if all parties weren't aware in advance, even not like everyone backstage needed to know, right? But just like the main core people, if they weren't aware, then that's kind of shitty. You know what I mean? If they were aware, then well done. You know what I mean? But with the reaction that she had at the time, it was like, yo, like I don't think this was like planned. um so yeah, it was just one of those not weird situations, but like, oh shit situations, right? And then that was what prompted Charlotte's response in regards to Kaiser being in her DMs or whatever. Because that comment Tiffany made was, I think, maybe within a week, maybe even just like a few short days of Charlotte, actually, I guess, going on a little media tour and had revealed that in an interview somewhere, I believe. So it had just recently come up. So that was why it was more like a oh shit moment too. So yeah. Getting back to it, so backtracking one step to kind of tie it all back together, she says, and yeah, let's just get it out of the way. I've gotten divorced 3 times, which I didn't even realize it was 3 times at the time. Which again is none of our fucking business, but whatever. She continues, and I know that none of that makes me unique, and I know that nothing in a million years will make me normal or relatable or sympathetic, but I'm still human. And I think in those times when people have seen me appear rattled by the booing, those are just the times when I felt like, at least for a moment, the boos aren't for Charlotte. They're for Ashley. They're for me. They're because of the way I look, or because of the energy I'm giving off as a woman, or because of real trauma I've gone through in real life. So when it got mentioned in Chicago that I have an 0 for 3 record at marriages, yeah, it rocked me legit. I'm not too proud to tell you that. I don't need everyone thinking I'm playing 5D chess all the time. My reaction to that line was as genuine as it gets because, and maybe this makes me naive, in my head, Charlotte hasn't been divorced. So I wasn't expecting it to come up in that promo. And then all of a sudden, I had an entire arena cheering as I got mocked for something that was, and frankly still is, devastating to me. Which isn't the end of the world. I moved past it. I always do. But when I reflect on my time in WWE, honestly, that stuff hits me harder than any bump I've taken. Like, it's tough enough to play a queen on your best day, you know? On your worst day, it's even tougher. And on those days when you're feeling insecure or anxious or weak or ugly or, yes, heartbroken, it's almost impossible. And again, I am going to put a pin in that really quick as well because it's ironic that she mentions this here because I was watching, I don't even remember what match it was. I think it was last night or the night before, but I just was not in like the best of moods or whatever. And I was watching wrestling because happy place, right? And I remember thinking like, yo, props to props to every wrestler out there because at least with me, for instance, with my job, like if I'm having a bad day, yes, I still have to interact with people, but it's on a limited basis. I'm not broadcasted on TV where millions of people are going to see me, thousands of people are going to see me. It's going to be documented for the rest of time. And I'm just okay to have a bad day. Yeah, I may not respond or I may have an attitude or a tone to a certain response that I shouldn't have, right? That I may need to apologize for or something to that effect. But that's just between me and that person, right? Now, think of if you're a wrestler or any, not just wrestling, but any sports, any athlete, right? Like anyone on TV, anyone, if you're just a news broadcaster, anyone, if you're on TV, think of like you having a really bad day but still going to work because of whatever reason, right? Like some people, like for me, sometimes it's best for me to just keep trucking along through the day because if I sit and dwell, then sometimes it makes it worse. But sometimes, depending on what it is, you do just need to take that mental health day. So imagine you having one of those days where it's just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna truck through the day, save that PTO, or maybe I don't have any PTO left, and just try to get through it, call it a day, and just go home and sleep it off. Like one of those days. But imagine you're on TV. Or even just maybe you're not on TV. Maybe you're just like on radio. Maybe it's just your voice being heard, right? But you're expected to be presented in a certain way. You're depending on what your character is, what your role is, what the job is. You're expected to have a certain type of presentation, right? And I can only imagine how hard it is to ignore and suppress what you're really feeling sometimes, knowing you have to be on TV or you're going to be in front of hundreds, thousands, millions of people. So props to them. Props to Charlotte. Obviously, she's not unique in this situation. Obviously, she's just the topic at hand right now. But I actually thought about this like a few days ago, like I said. So just for the record, right? And it's just something that even so I take for granted. And I was thinking too, like when I was kind of like going down that rabbit hole, like even just taking like a bump, as I say, right? Like going in the ring and having to be physically active. Like when you're in that mindset, I'm sure the last thing some of them want to do is go out there and like run the ropes and take suplexes and like dive through tables and shit. You know what I mean? But they still go out there. So mad respect, bro. Mad respect to them, to all you guys out there on TV, all the broadcasting, because it'd be dope to do one day, but man, the struggle is real sometimes. So shout out to everyone. And shout out to us who go through it on the lower end, right? Lower end in the sense of we're not being broadcasted, right? I think as humans it's sometimes easy to forget what people go through. You know what I mean? But continuing on, we're getting more up to date with her memories. She has this memory, and I love the framing and the thread of the letter here. I have this memory. It's about 2 years ago. I just lost to Rhea at WrestleMania 39 in one of my favorite matches of my career. The cameras caught me smiling afterwards, and what you were seeing there was a lot of pride. Yeah, I was a bloody mess. I just gotten the shit beat out of me, and I lost my world title. But I also felt like something special happened in that ring. One, I think we put on one of the best. I think we put on the best women's match in WrestleMania history. I My mind switched it to one, but she says one. I think we put on the best women's match in WrestleMania history. Fight me. All right. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that because again, lately, like there was people. Oh, because Mercedes just hit her 1,000th match. Uh, my favorite Mercedes match, bro, is the one against Bianca Belair. What WrestleMania was it? I forget the number right now, but that was just one of my favorites. But I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this one. She says, "Fight me." And two, I think our match was a torch passing in a way that actually felt meaningful. And I like to think that a big reason why it felt so meaningful is that it wasn't just anyone in that ring telling Rhea, "You want this torch? Come fucking take it." It was Charlotte Flair. And what's funny is, after the match, I was talking with a friend of mine about everything. How it went, how I was feeling physically, and how I was feeling mentally as I tried to figure out what's next. And as my friend and I were talking, out of nowhere, I kind of blurted something out. I said, "I'm just now getting good." Then another pretty dope shot there. Really great colors. It's a thought that had been on my mind for a while, but I never quite said it out loud. I almost felt like I wasn't allowed to say it out loud. Honestly, I almost felt like I'm still not allowed to say it out loud. And I guess I mean it in two different ways. One, in a cocky way, straight up. I'm just now getting good. As in, to me, I haven't even peaked yet. Maybe it's because I started late, I don't know. But for all I've managed to accomplish in this business, I've had to learn it on the fly a lot more than people think. And there are so many moments I'll look back on, great moments, where I'll think to myself, geez, if I had known then what I know now, I would have done this, this, and this so differently. In my head, there are all these aspects of my career that could have been better. I mean, everyone thinks that though. I feel her there. And then as far as the second way I mean it, honestly, this is more vulnerable than I usually am, but I'm going to tell you a secret. Ooh, tea time. I'm old. Not really, of course. I'm 39. But as a female wrestler who's pushing 40, I promise you, there are people in this industry who already consider me old. Never mind that I'm literally younger than Cody, who is considered the face of the company, and Roman, who is probably our biggest star. Never mind that CM Punk, who I'm 7 years younger than, main event at night 1 of Mania, and John Cena, who I'm 9 years younger than, main event at night 2. Never mind that we live in an era where athletes are extending their primes for longer than ever. For men, and I say this with so much respect for the guys I just mentioned, there's no such thing as aging out. For women, though, the rules are just different. For women, as depressing as it sounds, I think a lot of people still only know one way to value them, as young and disposable. And I think you see that in the women's stories that are allowed to be told. Right there, dude. Right fucking there. And again, guys, I know like 90% of you guys are, or 90% of the people in my chat are males. Because I use the phrase guys very loosely. She's 100% correct. 100% correct. And obviously, it goes more so in sports, but it goes in every industry, bro. Every business, everything. Because especially when we women get to our mid to late 40s, and if we haven't had any children, oh, you're getting asked the question, when are you gonna have your kids? Why don't you have any kids yet? Like, are you, is it anytime soon? And I just think it's so fascinating for multiple reasons, because one, you don't know why they don't have kids. First of all, it could be multiple reasons. It could be just a personal choice. It could be a religious choice. It could be a physical choice where they physically can't have children and it eats them up every day. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I never even thought of it that way. I was one of those people early, like in my early 20s. Because I had a good amount of my friends had kids either early, like, teenage kids, teenage parents. Not a lot of them, but a couple. Or they had kids in their early 20s. So that discussion or that topic would come up from time to time. So especially when you get, like I said, to your mid to late 30s, people are like, all right, girl, like, what's going on? For that aspect being one of them. And then two, like she says, you're just getting old, right? Like, oh, you're aging out. And maybe you guys, you men in the chat here don't think that way, or maybe you do. And maybe you do think that women, once they hit 40, like, oh, they're expired goods, they can't play sports anymore. And if you do, then that's your opinion. To me, I just think that, okay, if we're viewing that, if we're taking age as solely the factor, then we need to place that on men as well. Long story short. And again, I do know, obviously, biologically, right? Like, there's different factors, which we're not going to get into, you know what I mean? But if, like she said, if certain men can go out there and continue their career well into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I don't understand why women can't. It's just an honest question, like, just a legit question, like, why? What is the difference? Truly, like, I would really, like, I'm open to all feedback and all answers and all viewpoints and any response, because it's always been a question of mine, um, for obvious reasons. So I obviously don't feel the pressure like she does, but I totally get it. I totally get it. Getting back to Charlotte. And again, another dope photo. She continues, so when I say I'm just now getting good, I guess part of it is bittersweet, because I think the next big step for female wrestlers is it isn't the same amount of TV segments or main events or titles or money or opportunities as men. The next big step is the same amount of years as men. It's women getting to be Cody or Roman or Seth or Randy or Punk or Cena or AJ or Ray. Guys who get to work through their 40s, hopefully even their 50s, and it does not matter. They're killing it. No one cares about it. No one even talks about it. It just is. Actually, it is talked about because it's actually glorified and it's actually an impressed factor. Right? Like, oh my God, look at him. That's amazing. Now, I will say, to be fair, we are shit talking Goldberg, right? He's what, 58? But in my opinion, for me, it's not even an age thing for Goldberg. It's an inconsistency thing. It's he hasn't been on TV in X amount of years. It's the setup for it. It's X, Y, and Z. The age only comes into the factor in the sense of can he still go, right? And just a concern factor. So that's my sidebar on that. But again, she's 100% correct. And I'm going to get to the chats, obviously, once we get through this, because like I said, guys, this is lengthy, but I feel like it's important. And I appreciate you guys being in the chat here, everyone watching on Twitter, on Twitch, all you guys. If you are watching, I appreciate if you would hit that like button or subscribe wherever you are doing so. If not, that's cool too. But just a thought. I appreciate it. But she's 100% right. And I love the way she's phrasing it, so I'm sorry to keep going off on side notes. Continuing on, she says, and that's what I really want, more than anything. I want to play out my career, not age out of it. I want the story when I'm going for my last world title to be the grizzled vet chasing glory, not she's old and she's obsessed. Facts. I want to be able to say, as a woman, that I want more. And what I want more of, I want more time. Good for you, girl. I have this memory. Ooh, it's about a month ago. Very recent. I'm talking to John Cena. A couple of months earlier, he won his 17th world title, breaking my dad's all-time record. Wow, this is interesting. And this is really our first time getting to chat since it happened. John and I are peers now, but he knows how much I've looked up to him. It's crazy to think back on, but my first ever promo in FCW was actually about John. Cool. I'm just such a fan of his for what he's been to our industry and for the way he set the standard in WWE for so long. And honestly, for how he's always treated my dad with respect. Anyway, John and I were catching up. We talked a little about the journey he's been on recently with his current run and his retirement tour. And then we talked about the journey I've been on recently with everything. And he gave me this amazing piece of advice, something that sounded kind of surface level when I first heard it, but now I understand that it's actually really deep. He said, don't just learn to accept, don't learn to accept, okay, let me try that again. Don't just learn to accept the stuff that's happened to you. Learn to own what's happened to you. So I'm going to say that one more time. John Cena said, don't just learn to accept the stuff that's happened to you. Learn to own what's happened to you. And again, if you guys know John Cena, he's into that deep stuff, which really makes you think. She continues, and I've been thinking about John's advice a lot lately, especially as I've been reflecting on all the stuff that's happened since my injury. The irony is, things were going so well. Coming off the Rhea match at WrestleMania 39, I felt like I was really finding a groove. That might surprise a lot of people to hear. That might add words in. That might surprise people to hear because I wasn't part of any big storylines during that run. I didn't win any big matches or titles, but I kind of just got to be in the mix. I was a good guy, but I think for the first time I got to be a good guy in a way that wasn't at the top of the card as this cloud hanging over everything. I tagged with Bianca one night, then maybe I tagged with Shotzi one night, then maybe I'd work singles with Io one night. It was refreshing for me. I was having fun. And then there was my marriage. For the last 3 years, Manny, Andrade, had wrestled away from WWE, and us being in different companies had definitely put a strain on things. But now he was coming back. And just the fact that we'd be getting to work together and not have to be apart all the time, I was so optimistic about it. I was filling up with these hopeful thoughts that our relationship getting stronger, of us having kids and starting a family, maybe even all of us traveling on the road one day and making towns together. It felt like the stars had finally aligned. Manny was set to debut at the Royal Rumble in January 2024. In December of 2023, I tore my knee. Damn. I remember being back in the locker room after it happened, just totally fucking shattered. I think I was in shock at first, but once the shock wore off, I started having a full on panic attack. I just kept thinking about all these ways that my life had maybe changed forever because of one bad landing on a backflip. And as hard as I tried not to be overwhelmed by that, I couldn't find the strength to be anything else. It was an out of body experience, like I was watching the shitty part of a sports documentary happening to me in real time. And here is a picture of her. And it looks like the hospital. That sucks, dude. Continuing on, everyone was so supportive, which I absolutely don't take for granted. The women in the locker room all came over to me instantly and put their arms around me. Brandy, who I've known since I was a kid, showed up for me in a big way. And Hunter gave me the pep talk you hope your boss will give you after you feel like you failed at your job. But truthfully, none of it helped. It just felt so unfair, you know? Like I'd worked my ass off for so long just to get to this exact moment where it felt like everything for once might be snapping into place. And then it turned out instead everything was coming apart. In February of 24, I started my fertility journey. Wow, she really opens up here. That's a complicated topic, and honestly, it's a topic that society doesn't make very easy to talk about. But I'm going to try to be open about it here as much as I can because it's not something I'm ashamed of. I'm not ashamed to say that I feel the pressure of being a female athlete who, one, has a biological clock, one I'm constantly reminded of, and two, a happy ending in mind that involves love and marriage and a family of my own. I'm also not ashamed to say I went through 4 rounds, 5 tries of fertility last year with no luck. And I'm not ashamed to say that that process gutted me and spiritually exhausted me. Yeah. And guys, like, I personally haven't done it, but I had a close friend who tried it too, actually. And that shit, first of all, it's expensive. Obviously, you know, she's blessed financially. But not only is it financially taxing, but what your body has to go through is a complete 180. Like there's so much medication, you have to like do certain diets depending on where you're at physically at the time. Like there's so much that goes into it. So I can only imagine. And then the devastation of it. You know what I mean? To go through that whole process and then try and then to find out it didn't take and it's like, fuck, bro. Like, yeah. I've got it is probably like the best term, I'm sure. Continuing on, I think my rock bottom moment was probably sometime last summer when I was flying around the country for second opinions. Chicago, San Francisco, New York, I went everywhere. Around this same time, I developed tendonitis in my knee from going too hard in my rehab, which of course then I set my rehab back more. And then also around this same time, I went from trying to save my marriage to facing the fact that I was getting a third divorce. And it's like each thing just fed into the other. Like I couldn't do jumping exercises because of my fertility, but those are exactly the exercises I needed to rehab my knee. Or it felt like the stress from my fertility had harmed my marriage, but then it felt like the stress from my divorce was now harming my fertility. It was like for an entire year, I just couldn't win. I was trying so damn hard at all these things, but it's like the harder I tried, the worse everything got. And I'm sure some people will read this and have jokes about it, and that's fine. And I know some people will see me, and I know how mean they can be about what they think they know about my life. But I'm not writing this for those people. This isn't for my haters. Honestly, this isn't even for my fans. This is for myself. This is for the version of me that spent so much of my personal life needing to be liked, and so much of my romantic life wanting to be loved, and so much of my professional life trying to be hated that I think I've lost my own compass sometimes in the middle of all that. So I guess I'm working on finding it again. And I think putting this out there, owning what's happened to me is a pretty good start. Thank you, Cena, as they say. All right. I think we're winding up here. I have this memory. It's about a month and a half ago. Wait, we backed up a little bit. May 24th, 2025. That's the day that WWE announced Evolution 2, our second ever, this would be a good segue, our second ever all women's PLE, and they didn't just schedule it for a random Sunday. They scheduled it for July 13th, 10 years to the day from my main roster debut. I'm not usually a nostalgic person, but yeah, that one really got me. Didn't know that. Standing there in that ring in July of 2015 with Becky and Mercedes, it's still crazy to think about. It felt like yesterday that we were pulling street team duty, putting up flyers and posters all around Tampa so we could have a house for our first FCW shows. Now we were getting introduced by Stephanie McMahon on Raw and being talked about as part of WWE's Women's Revolution. We understood it wouldn't be easy, but we also understood it had a chance to be special. And it's been that and more. And I think the reason this last decade of women's wrestling has been so special to me, well, the answer won't shock you. It's all the amazing women I've worked with. And there's a picture of the 4 horsewomen right there, which is pretty dope. Pretty dope. Look how young they were, y'all. That's crazy. Crazy. Oh, and then she names names. This is dope. And she says, just to name a few, Paige. She's not a blonde. This woman is cussing. Paige, and she says, LOL. Paige was the first wrestler who I was truly enamored with. Not even kidding. I literally dressed as Paige for Halloween one year. And when I saw her wrestle Emma at NXT Arrival in 2014, that was such a huge deal. That was the moment I realized, okay, wrestling isn't something I want to do. It's something I have to do. That's dope. Natalya. Our match for the NXT women's title meant so much to me. Natty is one of those wrestlers who has a ton of cred, and back then I had the opposite of cred. I was inexperienced as hell, so she definitely could have exposed me if she wanted to, but she didn't. Natty was so generous as an opponent, and I'm pretty sure that seeing me in a ring with her is the first time the office started taking me seriously. Nikki Bella. I always had these very mixed feelings for the term diva, which probably stems from being told in developmental that I didn't look diva enough for the main roster. So I took that personally. I mean, how could I not? But it had nothing to do with Nikki, who I had a lot of admiration for, and who's earned everything she's gotten in WWE. Beating her to become the last ever Divas champ was a big moment, and the more time that passes, the more I see how that match wasn't about style versus substance or any bullshit like that. It was about progress, which Nikki and the Divas were an important part of. Asuka. Such a master. Oh my god. Anytime I've gotten to share a ring with Asuka, it's been the definition of iron sharpens iron. Simply put, 30 More is one of my favorite matches ever. And in that moment, on that night, men, women, I don't care. I felt I was going up against the best wrestler in the world. It was it was a huge boost for me, and I conflated a lot there. So it was a huge boost for me that I raised my game and hung with her. Not that difficult of a sentence, right? But yeah, Asuka is so dope, dude. I saw someone else say that of Asuka, like male or female wise, like she's one of the best, and they're not wrong. Ronda. Of course, Ronda Rousey. I don't think Ronda gets enough credit for WWE putting women in the main event. A lot of things about the women's revolution might be true, but this is definitely true. Ronda being a main event draw in UFC changed everything. I know that for a fact. I think the U.S. women's soccer team being a draw helped us. I think Serena Williams and other women's tennis players being a draw helped us. But in terms of WWE looking at women as potentially WrestleMania level main eventers, you can trust me 100% on this 100%. There's before Ronda Rousey, and then there's after. And I wish people would talk about that more and give Ronda her due. Good point there. All right. Bianca. We haven't had our classic match yet, but I know it's coming. More importantly, getting to watch Bianca. Here we go. Bianca and Mercedes main event at WrestleMania 37. That's probably my favorite women's moment from the last 10 years that I wasn't a part of. Not just because the match was incredible, but because it was incredible to have a WrestleMania main event between two black women. Representation is one of those things that WWE can always get better at, and I hope that match really put on display why it matters. Like, as much as I love watching Bianca, what I love even more is watching young black girls watch Bianca. it feels deeper than fandom. And I think a big reason for that is just how good it feels to watch something and be able to picture yourself in it. And I saw no quotes about that paragraph itself, and I think that's so beautiful, bro. Props to her, because absolutely right. She's absolutely right. And I really dig that she calls out WWE, where she says representation is one of those things that WWE can always get better at. So good for her. Trish and Lita. I was actually in the crowd for Trish and Lita's Raw main event in North Carolina in 2004. I was mostly just there for my dad, though, so I had no idea how historic their match was at the time. But I do now, and I'm so glad they've both come back and worked big shows over the last few years. Because as influential as Trish and Lita were 20 years ago, I think they're being just as influential wrestling 20 years later by showing it's not just the men who are special attractions. Now there's proof. Now there's proof women can come back in as legends and draw. So I don't even. I guess I don't remember much else of that Raw besides that main event. But wow, I don't remember her being there, or I don't remember remembering she was there. Stephanie McMahon, of course. I know that some people, for some reason, feel the need to downplay Stephanie's role in the women's revolution and how instrumental she was to it. Those people are idiots. None of this happens without her. And last but not least, obviously, the 4 horsewomen. The thing about the horsewomen is we never even did the match. The match. Me versus Mercedes versus Becky versus Bayley on the main roster. Is still, to this day, probably the biggest money women's wrestling match that you could book. Say that 5 times fast. And I do think it'll happen one day. Or I think one day it'll happen. But I also think the fact that it hasn't happened and yet we're all still so intertwined with each other's careers, it just speaks to the uniqueness of our impact and our connection. It speaks to the way that while there have always been cool stories to tell within the horsewomen, the coolest story has always been the one of the horsewomen. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then just her laying in the ring. All right, we've had our ups and downs over the years. I won't pretend we're best friends or that we're all even friends at the moment. I won't pretend there's a 4 horsewomen group chat I'll send this article to when it publishes. And thinking about it that way, it does make me sad sometimes. But I also think it's part of life, especially at the highest levels of professionalism, competition. On a professional level, the respect between the 4 of us is absolute. The bonds we share are fucking indestructible. There's not another person alive who knows what we've been through as a group or what it's taken for us to all still be active and to all still be at the top of our games as women working in a business that's still learning how to treat women. Facts. I have a different, perfect chemistry with each of them, and if I wrote about them individually, I'd be writing forever. So instead, I'll just say this one thing that is very meaningful for me and that will always tie them together in my heart as a trio. I grew up in wrestling because of my dad, and I got into wrestling because of my brother, but I fell in love with wrestling because of the horsewomen. I fell in love with wrestling because I fell in love with Becky, Bayley, and Mercedes as wrestlers, and nothing will ever change that. There you go. I love that. I have this fantasy. It's a few years from now. It's late at night, and I'm about to step onto my tour bus. I'm not a fancy person at all. I saved most of my money, but I won't lie. I splurged on the bus. It's really nice. It was Rhonda's originally, and then she sold it to me when she left WWE. Having your own tour bus is kind of a status symbol in our business, and I have to admit, as a woman especially, I'm proud of it. Anyway, it's late. Tonight's show just ended, and I worked the main event, so I'm so tired. But then I open the doors to the bus, and I see my kids. They're only a year or 2 old, so they're too young to know what their mom does for a living or anything about it. They don't know if she won the match or lost, or if it was 5 stars or no stars, or if she was a good guy or a bad guy. or what anyone said about her in the crowd or on social media or anywhere else. Really, the only things they know are that they love her, and they're excited to see her because she's their mom. Now, of course, I'm not so tired, and the kids are wide awake. So I let them crawl in bed with me and turn on the TV. We watch a show they like, maybe half an episode, until eventually they fall asleep and it's just me and my thoughts. And for a moment, I swear, I'm back in North Carolina. I'm in my old room in that old house up past my bedtime with Reed. We talk, and I tell him everything. How I found myself, how I built this life, how I'm a Flair who became a Flair, which was always his dream. Then suddenly I'm on the bus again. It's almost morning. I won't be Charlotte for a few more hours. I look out the window and there's only road. And there it is. There is Charlotte's letter, guys. Wow. That was heavy at some points. I'm not gonna lie, you know? And again, I gave you my thoughts throughout. Tried to. Um but I think it says a lot, and I think she addressed a lot of how difficult it is at some points, and I think we got a really good insight to her, and I very much appreciate her for opening up and sharing that side of her and for being vulnerable because it's very difficult. It's something that I can't even imagine. Um, so I appreciate her, man. I really do. And again, I know at the end of the day too, we're just supposed to, as fans, like react to the character that we see on TV. But like I said earlier as well, for whatever reason, I think hers has gotten more conflated and more intertwined. So I think it was very well said. So props to her. But I just felt like that needed to be read. Again, I told you guys it was long, so I appreciate you guys for going through it and listening with me and I don't know, just sharing your thoughts. But what up, Fernando? What up? What up? Universal, I see you popped in. You guys have been at it. So I appreciate all you guys for popping in here. What up, Derek? Comatose, what up? What up? I'm just going through some comments here, guys, really quick. Derek, you said it well here, man. You said the double standard is real and is not fair. I do think maybe hope it is improving. The way Trish is treated is new but fun to see. Mm-hmm. Sorry, guys. Just trying to scroll back through here. K Smith, what up? And I think I saw was it Maria? Maybe not. What up, Mohammed? What up? What up? Sai, well said, bro. You said, oh, nice, cool updated picture, bro. You said not a huge Charlotte fan, but I really appreciate her vulnerability and honesty here. She knows she'll get hammered by some people for telling her truth, but she deserves to tell it like we all do. Exactly, bro. Exactly. All right. All right, cool. Man, you guys, yeah. Trying to read through it all, but I don't want to stall it too long here for you guys. But I appreciate you all being here. Comatose, I appreciate that, bro. You said, where'd it go? You said, awesome to hear Charlotte's story from the other side of the ropes as narrated in Kakash style. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Like I said earlier, before I read it, I had debated even really talking about it at all. Well, I take that back. Not talking about it, but reading it and going through it like I did. Just because I felt kind of weird, like I didn't like it's not my place and it's not my voice that should be on her words. You know what I mean? But at the same token, too, I felt it was very important to discuss and to bring out there and to have audibly out there. You know what I mean? To bring light to it as well, because like I said, I'm not gonna rehash it all, but there is an unfair judgment and an unfair bias when it comes to certain things. So again, I just and for that and just for Charlotte and Ashley herself, you know, for her being willing to open up and be that vulnerable, like I've said a couple times, and to just really get that personal and to share what she goes through and what she's been struggling with. I think it should get the attention it deserves. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of why I wanted to do it. But to wrap up things here, we do have an updated lineup on the Saturday night's main event and Evolution cards and All In. So obviously this isn't going to be the prediction part of it right now. Just wanted to give the updated lineup of each. And like I said at the beginning of the stream too, I'll figure out between tomorrow and Friday prediction show wise for All In what time and what day we'll be doing that. I just got to see how tomorrow like morning goes and like the first half of tomorrow goes. So we'll definitely get back on that. And then like I said, I most likely would not be doing a watch along for Saturday night's main event since I'll be up half the day streaming and doing the watch along for All In, which that seems to be what I'll be leaning more towards the watch along wise. But if anything changes, I'll obviously let you guys know that afternoon as well. But in regards to the All In lineup, and again, I'm so fucking happy it starts early in the afternoon, guys. And again, the long pay-per-views for AEW wouldn't be that hard of a pill to swallow if the shit didn't start so late. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to go fucking 6 hours, cool, bro, but start early in the day. You know what I mean? Like, start where it's reasonable. You know what I mean? Like, and especially if it's going to be on a Sunday. Like, thankfully, this is on a Saturday, but especially if it was a Sunday, you know, like, try to help a girl out. You know what I mean? Like, I got shit to do. I want to be involved in your product, but I still got shit to do. So, the updated card that we have as of right now, and again, that's why I'm not doing a prediction show for this right now, because we have Dynamite tonight and then Collision tomorrow, I believe, as well. I don't know if Collision is going to be live tomorrow or if they're doing a taping of it tonight. I would imagine it would be live since they're all in Texas already. So don't quote me on that, but the card that we have right now for All In, we have the Hurt Syndicate. Of course, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, your tag team champions, facing off against Jet Speed, which is Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, versus the Patriarchy, which is Christian Cage and Nick Wayne. We have Adam Cole, Bebe, facing off against Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. We have Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay facing off against the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. The stipulation here is if Ospreay and Strickland lose, they cannot challenge for the AEW World Championship for 1 year, respectively. However, if the Young Bucks lose, they will be stripped of their Executive Vice President titles. I did a previous stream on the stipulation being added to this match. So if you want my thoughts on that before the prediction show, check that out. But long story short, I love the stipulation added. I think it makes so much sense, and there's a few different ways you can go with it. So that's cool. We have the men's and women's casino gauntlet match for a future AEW World Championship match. I do know we have Mark Briscoe and MJF coming out 1 and 2 for that match, but I don't think we have anything declared for the women's. I could be wrong on that, entrant wise. So yeah, so we'll obviously get confirmation on that later on. Kazuchika Okada, our Continental Champion, will be defending his championship in a unification match against the International Champion, which is of course Kenny Omega, to create the Unified Championship. However, I have not listened to the media call that Tony Khan did, but apparently he mentioned something to the effect of it's like they're creating like the unified championship is going to be like a third championship, and both of the lineages of or both lineage, whatever the proper grammatical way to say that is, the lineage of both championships will still exist. So I don't fucking know, dude. It adds to my dislike, for lack of other words, of the unified championship name itself. I've bitched about that, and I think the other stream when I talked about the stipulations, I'm sure I will bitch about it again when I get to the prediction show. So I will save my frustration for that once I myself get more clarification on what the fuck he's talking about, which I'll actually make a point to listen to the media call once I wrap up here, and do shit around the house. But we have God bless Tony Khan. We have Timeless Tony Storm, our AEW Women's World Champion, defending her title against Mercedes Moné. Again, I think this is going to be a fantastic match, possibly the best women's match we've had in AEW. So I cannot wait to watch that and see how that full ends up, I was going to say coming to fruition, but then I was going to say how it's going to fold. I don't know. How it plays out. Long story short. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that match itself. And like I said, we'll say the predictions. Last but not least, as of right now, we have Jon Moxley, of course, our AEW World Champion, defending that said title against Hangman Adam Page, which, God help us, hopefully we will get a new champion. I'm trying not to get on that soapbox right now. But that is the card that we have for All In as of this moment. And I do not think there's been any pre-card matches or anything like that. So God bless. That's a beautiful thing. The Evolution card that we have, obviously WWE Evolution is on Sunday. I'll actually hold that and finish up with Saturday first. And guys, this is why too, because I just have this sickening feeling, guys, that fucking Goldberg is gonna pull out the victory here. Ugh. So again, that's why I was like, yo, like it may be fun to do a live watch along with that, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But thank you guys again who are joining me here live. You're watching on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. I appreciate it. Feel free to like, subscribe, all that bullshit if you feel so inclined to do so. All right, and that's what I thought. So the card for Saturday night's main event, and selfishly another reason why I thought about doing it because it'd be super fucking quick. Not that I don't love you guys, but the card that we have for Saturday night's main event is literally 3 fucking matches right now, and that's another reason why I am terrified about the main event. Obviously, Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Goldberg, and of course, which I haven't heard anyone else say, the fact that it's the World Heavyweight title itself. Again, I know it's not even the big gold belt. It's not that, but it's still eerily similar and tied into Goldberg's history with Atlanta, WCW, all that bullshit, which concerns me. So I'm gonna save my frustration for that. So obviously we have that match as the main event. The only 2 other matches that have been announced so far is LA Knight versus Seth Rollins, which I think is going to be a very fun match. And props to Penta and Seth Rollins for their fantastic match in the main event on Raw this past, actually, 2 days ago. Fantastic. Penta is that dude, man. I saw some people bitching on Twitter that, oh, like, it's not like Rey Fenix doesn't have a brother he can't tag with. Like, this is exactly the reason why they didn't put them on the same brand. So they can establish them both as their own individual people, their own individual characters, and go from there. And I already made my case for why I really enjoy Andrade and Phoenix tagging together. Even made a case for Zelina Vega aligning with them and getting back into that managerial role. So yeah, like I love that there's being separated. It's like what, since Ray's tagging with Andrade, like he can never tag with anyone else? Like, no, like that was just like absurd to me. Like sometimes like I try to entertain people's, not sometimes, I try to entertain people's point of view and like their opinion, but I'm just like, come on, bro. Sit down. But the other match that we have announced for Saturday night's main event is Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre, which I think is going to be another great match as well. I think, well, I'm not going to get in predictions here, but I just think that's going to be a great match, and I'm just so happy McIntyre is back. And I love his shirt, Bored at Work. Fantastic. Fan-fucking-tastic. And then the Evolution card, guys, which is, of course, the Sunday pay-per-view. PLE. There is a NXT card as well, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I got to wrap up here shortly. But, and to be honest with you, I don't even know if I'm going to be watching that this weekend because there's so much shit going on. But, Evolution. We have Jade Cargill versus Naomi in a no-holds-barred match, which I think is going to be a low-key sleeper match. We have Tiffany Stratton facing off against Trish Stratus, obviously defending her WWE Women's Championship against Trish, which she's like, here you go, Trish, here's the title match. We have a Battle Royal for a World Championship match at Clash in Paris. We have the Judgment Day tag team of Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, who is stepping in for the injured Liv Morgan, defending their titles against Charlotte Flair, who we just spent an hour talking about, with Alexa Bliss as her tag team partner, which I think is a very good tag team, and a good usage of both women. We have also them facing off against Soruka and Zarya, who are coming over from the NXT side, and a newly added team of the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka versus Asuka and Kairi Sane, which I love. So that's going to be a very fun match. We have Io Sky, who has risen from the obscurity of nowhere, facing off and defending her title against Rhea Ripley, who also chose her opponent, which, whatever. That's what we're doing right now, right? I bitched about that in a previous stream. Maybe that was on Brashing Media. One of the streams. But this match is going to be fantastic. Io versus Rhea. The story here, though, unless they end up making it a triple threat, which I don't see them doing, especially with Asuka being accounted for now, is Rhea cannot beat Io one-on-one. So we'll see if that changes here or what ends up coming out of that. Or if Io retains and Mommy just can't top Io. So we'll see. They are going to Australia very soon, Perth. I think in like 2 months. So it'll be interesting to see when they want to pull the trigger on Rhea, if they want to do it prior, or if they want to have her going in with a lot of momentum and trying to capture the title. Because I'm pretty certain, was it last year, the year before, when they were there, she was defending the title against Nia Jax. So they could want to switch it up this time and have her going in with, the momentum and to have that crowning moment, which would be cool to see her win the title in her home country. So could be what they're doing there. So we will see. And then we had the triple threat match that was added as well for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Of course, it's the women's. Your IC champ, Becky Lynch, defending against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. So that should be a fantastic match as well. But that is the lineup for this weekend, guys. That's all the shit that's going on so far. Again, we have Dynamite coming up tonight. We have Collision tomorrow night. And again, I'm not certain if Collision is going to be live. We'll see. But that is the lineup so far. So it's going to be a stacked weekend, guys. I appreciate you all so much for joining me here right now. we have a lot to still discuss this week. So be on the lookout for, like I said, the next stream, at least on this channel, whether it's going to be either tomorrow or Friday. TBD on that. We'll obviously have a better idea. And I'm depending on the collision status and what happens there, I may hold off on the prediction show until Friday. We'll see. We'll see, guys. You guys know me, and you guys are super flexible and seem to chime in whenever I hit that live button. And if you don't, you watch on replay. So I appreciate you guys truly. And yeah, so I'm going to go through the comments here really quick just to see if anything crazy happened. And then we'll be diving off here. But again, thank you so much, guys, for joining me and going through the Charlotte story and being open-minded. I appreciate that. Facts, I said, yeah, WWE suddenly stopped calling this Goldberg's last match. Now, only that it could be. Makes me worry. And his shirt, dude, it's like Goldberg's last ride or some shit, which it's not. It doesn't say Goldberg's last match. So, I don't know, bro. Makes me fucking worried. Fernando, you said stop jinxing us, Ash. Goldberg is not winning. I'm just trying to brace us, man. I am trying to just brace us, bro. Ravi, what up? What up? I don't know if I've seen you here before. What up, friend? Welcome. See, K. Smith thinks so too. It's not my own. I'm not the only one out here scared. Yeah, Josh, he says Saturday night's main event is only 2 hours, so like an hour 15 for commercials. 3 15-minute matches makes sense. Yeah, but 3 is just still a low number. And normally I think the lowest they do is like 4. And you got to think like the Goldberg main event shouldn't be longer than 5 minutes. 6, 7 max. Like, come on. So that's what I'm concerned. Unless we get like a Seth cash in or anything like that. I don't know. Lord of Dogtown, what up, bro? You said, I realize this is WWE Penta, but I would love to see Penta step up the speed in his matches. My man is working too slow, and I've been watching Penta since Lucha Underground. Yeah, dude, he has like tuned it down a notch, but I'm still impressed with how well he meshed. You know what I mean? Like, props to him. Lord of Dogtown. Comment of the day. It'll be worth it. I feel you, bro. I appreciate you, Sai. I appreciate you, my friend. Hi, Lord of Dogtown. I see what you did there. I actually have I did not watch Lucha Underground live at all. I've seen maybe a couple clips, maybe a match or two, but I have been dying to find where I can go back and watch it. So if you guys know, let me know. Let me know. Because I've searched for it on like even on Amazon, and you have to like pay per episode. It's like it was like $2 or $3 per episode. I'm like, fuck out of here, man. I want to watch it, but I ain't built like that. But with that being said, guys, appreciate you guys so much for popping on here. Like I said, and joining me going through the Charlotte letter and all that stuff and the quick lineup. I very much appreciate you guys. We will figure out. Oh, you said I'll hook you up with Lucha Underground. Comatose, I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, message me. That'd be dope. But guys, it's still early-ish in your day, depending on where you're at in the world. I appreciate everyone, like I said, for popping in. Watching here on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're doing. I appreciate it. Until next time, friends, thank you so much. Just It's not a cheap plug. Throw the notifications on because you guys know I'm random. But definitely will be popping back on here within the next day or so to discuss the Dynamite Collision, where we're at, and the weekend coming up. So until then, take care, guys. Stay safe and enjoy some wrestling. Have a good night.